What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all of the records that I acquired within the month of June this year in 2025. And this month was an absolutely solid month for vinyl finds. We have a highly coveted live box set from David Gilmour, the debut album from a great up-and-coming band from Boston called The Freight. We have a valuable Kiss promo release, some newer Mobile Fidelity titles, some live Black Sabbath, and so much more. It's about to go deep, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds. Okay, so we're going to be kicking this haul off in some Pink Floyd-related territory with a solo live release that, shockingly enough, demands upwards to $500 on Discogs to get an official press. And this is an unofficial pressing that just came out fairly recently. And if you don't want to pay that exorbitant price tag, then you can just pay a fraction of it and get this pressing of David Gilmour live in Gdansk. So this is from his On an Island tour from 2006, which, by the way, that album of his is probably one of my top favorite David Gilmour solo albums. He did a show at the Gdansk shipyard, also appears with an orchestra as well, and this is a fantastic release. He does a lot of tracks from Dark Side of the Moon. He also does a lot of stuff from his On an Island album, which is fantastic. And what I love about this particular David Gilmour live release is that he really dug deep into the Pink Floyd back catalog, because he does things like What's the Deal, Astronomy Domini, and Fat Old Son. He also does Echoes on here, which this was the last tour that he had done so before Richard Wright's passing. And on top of all that, the fifth LP, which is kind of like the bonus cuts, essentially, has some tracks from other shows. There's a couple of barn jams. So overall, this is a really solid set. Comes in a nice box. Artwork is replicated. Opens up like this. And inside you have a photo of David. And there is a fold-out poster that opens up just like this. Nice little hype sticker as well. And each of the 5 LPs comes pressed on metallic gold vinyl, which looks absolutely awesome. And like I said, if you don't want to pay that exorbitant $500 price tag, then you can definitely snag this unofficial press for a fraction of that. And until they reissue it or repress it, this is going to get me by just fine. Unofficial press of David Gilmour live in Gdansk. And now I am going to shine a light on a newer band from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm just going to showcase the record first and explain the context. This is The Freight, and the album is called Tales of Maybe. So, backstory behind how I got this record. So, the guitarist and lead vocalist Adam right here is a big fan of the channel. He's also a fan of my good buddy Emma's channel, 8 Vinyl Low. He's also an avid Rock City Kitties supporter, which is me and Emma's podcast. And him and his band have this record that's coming out. And he was very gracious to send us some copies, which it sounds absolutely awesome. And you can really tell that this band cares about the vinyl counterpart when it comes to their work, because they really went all out with this album in terms of the production, the fact that it was cut from tape by Ryan K. Smith from Sterling Sound. They also pressed this at Fidelity Record Pressing, which is MoFi's pressing plant. It literally screams analog. And if you want a great modern analog recording, this is something that you really got to check out. Stylistically, it's got a little bit of classic rock. There's some jam band. A little bit of R&B in some places. It's a really, really fun listen. I mean, literally just the fact that, like, when I took the record out like this and I saw that Fidelity logo, it was just a real treat. And it sounds and looks absolutely wonderful. And on top of the LP, Adam had also sent us a Freight beer koozie. We also got some guitar picks, as well as a plethora of stickers as well. So thank you very much, Adam. And by the time that you guys watch this, Emma and I had also interviewed Adam on the Rock City Kitties podcast. And you've probably read my written review of this record on Tracking Angles. So if you want to hear some great new rock, definitely check out The Freight Tales of Maybe. Okay, so here is one of the recent Analog Productions Atlantic 75 titles that came out within the last month or so. They're still continuing on with the series that like dates back to the tail end of 2023, and it's still going on. And got to give a major shout out to Chad Kasem over at Acoustic Sounds, Analog Productions, Quality Record Pressings for sending this record my way. As much as I adore these pressings, I receive them for review purposes for trackingangle.com. So by the time that you watch this video, you probably have already read my review of this pressing. What am I talking about? I am talking about Foreigner's Double Vision. So this is the band's second album. It's the last to feature the sort of classic original lineup. It's got some heavy hitters on here. You have Hot Blooded, the title track, Blue Morning, Blue Day. It's an absolutely solid record. I love the early Foreigner stuff. And it's funny too because the timing is nice because I've been doing a sort of Foreigner deep dive as of recently, kind of going back and revisiting the album tracks that tend to sort of go under the radar, and it's really good stuff. And also, I almost pulled the trigger on this when I visited On the Record with Abby, and this was in my stack of prospects that I was going to pick up. So the fact that I didn't purchase this that day, it all kind of adds up well in terms of the timing. Now, I do already have the self-titled debut as part of this series in my collection, and it sounds wonderful, so I suspect this will sound the same. And also, I have the MoFi version of this, which I'll part ways with to make way for this, and then I can just take that MoFi press and trade it to get something else. It's a never-ending cycle. Now, as always, Analog Productions outdoes what the original had intended. And if you remember the original pressing of this, it just came in a single jacket. Because it's 2LP, 45 RPM, gatefold, baby. We have some great shots of the band, one of which was taken near the French Quarter of New Orleans, which I actually visited with the youngest members of the VC a couple years back. And as always, replicates everything. You have a little bit of a, not exactly a custom label, but it did away with the sort of red and green classic Atlantic label. You've got a straight silver one, but it looks fantastic in terms of the pressing themselves, the jacket. I am really stoked to revisit this album and give it a spin and review it for all of you on Tracking Angle. So good stuff here. Now, all you Kiss fans, assemble, because I have a really cool piece to show. I'll just flat out say, yes, I know it's unofficial, and some of the hardcore collectors will whinge and moan about this. But the way that I see it, this particular release, let's talk about the original. You know what? I'm just going to showcase it. Take a look at this. This is First Kiss, Last Lick. So this was a promo-only release that came out around late 89, early 1990. It features a couple of tracks from Hot in the Shade, which was the then new album that they had put out. Then you have some tracks that were the then new songs on Killers, Nowhere to Run, Partners in Crime. And then you have the original demo versions of Deuce and Strutter from the Eddie Kramer demo. These tracks also appear on the 2001 Kiss box set. Highly coveted collector's piece. I think right now it starts at $200 minimum on Discogs, and of course that's depending on condition, where it's coming from, so it goes for higher. This is an unofficial press done on colored vinyl that's limited to 500 copies, and does include a little fold-out poster here, and the vinyl itself comes pressed on nice sort of sparkled marble vinyl, which looks great. And the center labels have Gene and Paul as they appeared on the Hotter Than Hell cover, which looks awesome. Now, a lot of the sort of crazy hardcore collectors are not fans of these kind of pressings. And the way that I see it, like, as long as there's that transparency with, you know, these kind of pressings, I don't think it's going to detract the value away from the original. And quite frankly, would I love to have a record like this? Yes. Do I want to pay upwards to $200 to $300? Not really. So for just a little over 50, of course, courtesy of Brian's Kiss vinyl, I got my hands on this, and it's a cool, just sort of hot in the shade era piece of Kiss wax to add to the collection. And the fact that it comes on pretty colored vinyl, it's a win-win. Okay, so here are some titles that just came out fairly recently via Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab. And I gotta say, their place in the audiophile market to this day is very interesting because take another similar company like Analog Productions, where I think everything that they put out is chef's kiss. It always outdoes originals. There tends to be this focus on albums and genres that are very much exquisitely recorded, and that comes across when you listen to their pressings, albeit vinyl, or if you have their real tapes or anything like that. I think what's cool with MoFi is that they take the most unorthodox albums that an audiophile wouldn't think to give an audiophile style treatment of like 2LP, 45 RPM, but yet MoFi does it. And I think that is what makes their catalog very interesting and intriguing, and it covers all angles possible. And needless to say, when I saw this album was getting that 2LP treatment, I was like, wow, I did not see that coming, but given how much I dig the record, it's a welcome addition. And the record that I am talking about is the self-titled debut of the New York Dolls. An absolute landmark band from the 1970s New York glitter glam rock scene. Obviously would go on to influence Kiss. They were really kind of bending the gender norms, as you can see on this album cover. So much so that when I was a kid and my dad showed me his vinyl copy, I literally thought that they were just straight up women. It's absolutely crazy and convincing. But this is a fantastic album. I think the New York Dolls legacy lies with this record. Personality Crisis, Looking for a Kiss, Trash. This album is just absolutely rocking from start to finish. It is numbered as well. This is copy number 1217. And then just for the sake of transparency, because, you know, MoFi got the slap on the wrist a couple years back. This is the quarter-inch, 15-inch per second Dolby A analog master to DSD to the console to the lathe. So that digital step is there. But look, it still sounds great. Gatefold jacket opens up like this. And just for the sake of showcasing, the label has the pink band over the top, just like the gatefold jacket. So really stoked to have this nice little upgrade in my collection, because I think what I had previously was just a single LP reissue, and there was a pink vinyl version as well that looked kind of interesting. But when it comes down to these kind of pressings, I personally don't mind flipping it over more than once, because if it sounds great, it's so worth it. And then we're going to flash forward about 20 years or so with an album that came out from this particular alternative rock band. And this is an album that I did not own in my collection previously, but it's one that I really wanted for a long time. And that is Stone Temple Pilots' Tiny Music, Songs from the Vatican Gift Shop. For a while, there was a super deluxe version that had the album on vinyl, along with CDs of the remastered album, a live show, and all the offcuts and such. And as much as I love STP, I didn't want to fork out for that super deluxe set. But recently, Analog Productions had done the Atlantic 75 pressings of Core and Purple, both of which I reviewed on trackingangle.com. They sound absolutely phenomenal. And this album is kind of like the oddball in the STP catalog. This is where they kind of got a little psychedelic. Some tracks on here are Big Bang Baby, Lady Picture Show, Tripping on a Hole in a Paper Heart. This album is just really good, full of great songs, and it's one that I really wanted on vinyl since they never quite did a single LP reissue. So when I saw that MoFi was kind of picking up the pace and following those two pressings that I just mentioned of those two classic records with this, I was like, cool. I kind of see what they're doing there. So it's cool to keep the audiophile treatment steady across the board by approaching this album. And great gatefold jacket. You have lyrics on one side, a cool photo collage on the other. And then just for the sake of showcasing, same deal. You got the blue band across the top of the label there. And I am really stoked to set the turntable to 45 RPM and spin my way through some New York Dolls and STP, courtesy of MoFi. Okay, so I'm going to be wrapping things up with a little something that I picked up at Wall to Wall Sound and Video. I brought my dad over to that shop fairly recently for Father's Day. We spent the day shopping at the store, getting some burgers and beer afterwards. It was an all-around great Father's Day. And I had seen this record in one of their flip-through videos of new arrivals that they had gotten. And then I said to myself, if it was still there, then it's meant to be. And this is a missing piece in my ACDC collection, and that is Iron Man 2. So this is the sort of complement album to go with the film that came out back around, I want to say this was, what, 2010 or so. Funny enough, ACDC is a band that has never really done a greatest hits release, never done a best of. It's never in their nature to do one. This kind of passes as that unintentionally, because you get things like Shoot to Thrill, Rock and Roll Damnation, Back in Black, Highway to Hell, Let There Be Rock, TNT. It has a lot of heavy hitters, but yet you have some other interesting things on here, like Cold Hearted Man, Guns for Hire, Have a Drink on Me, Razor's Edge. You know, it kind of covers some interesting ground that I think will appease casual fans, as well as throw a bone to some of the diehards. But as you see, it has a nice sort of foilish kind of jacket. Overall in very good condition. There's a little bit of edge wear and some corner dings here and there, but not enough to make me go too nuts. And each LP does come with a cool printed inner sleeve. There's Malcolm and Angus. And then here's the other one with the sort of colorized lightning bolts. And then as for the vinyl itself, nice heavy 180 gram vinyl pressed at RTI, with some cool kind of retro-ish looking Columbia labels, the 6i label as they called it for some of those vintage pressings. But yeah, I was really quite thrilled to find this missing ACDC piece for my collection. And then to wrap things up, we're gonna dive into some Black Sabbath territory. Obviously, the big Back to the Beginning show is coming up, which is billed as Ozzy's final performance, and honestly, a nice fitting farewell for the original Sabbath lineup, especially given how the 13 album and the End tour did not include Bill Ward. So it's cool that the four are coming together back where it all began and putting a nice subtle end to things. And these are some unofficial pressings of some officially released soundtracks to concert films. I know that's a very elongated sort of description, but you basically kind of get the general gist. So we're going to start off with something that came from the 13 tour, and that is Live Gathered in Their Masses. I believe this was recorded live in Australia, I believe, back in like 2013 or so. So it has some tracks from the 13 album, like Loner, Methodemic, End of the Beginning, God is Dead. And then, of course, you get your classics like War Pigs, Black Sabbath, Iron Man, Fairies Wear Boots, Paranoid. It's a cool collection. This unofficial pressing just recently came out, and I figured let's get in the spirit and get some modern Sabbath in there. Nice gatefold jacket, and it does come pressed on purple vinyl, which looks really, really cool. And then just to kind of dabble into some other Sabbath territory. I mean, let's face it, technically this is Black Sabbath, but for legal reasons, they had to go out under a different name. And of course, that name is Heaven and Hell. So this is the lineup of Ronnie James Dio, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Vinny Appice. And this is Neon Nights 30 Years of Heaven and Hell live at Wacken. So Wacken is a huge metal festival that goes on in Germany, and they did an appearance there. This was shortly around the time after they did the album The Devil You Know, since it does include some tracks from that record on here. But they do also do the classic Dio era Sabbath stuff like Mob Rules, Children of the Sea, Heaven and Hell, Neon Nights. So it really covers old ground as well as some of the newer stuff that they were doing at the time. I remember my dad had the DVD of this when I was growing up, and I watched it a lot as a kid. So it's cool to have a vinyl press of it, because when it comes to Sabbath, I am all eras. You know, as much as I worship
the Aussie years, and I love the Dio stuff, and some of the excursions with Ian Gillan and Tony Martin are interesting. They're the godfathers of metal, and anything works with them. If it wasn't for Tony Iommi, there would be no metal as we know it. But anyways, you guys all know that already. But this comes with a cool little insert, has a band photo, and there's like a little review of this release by Record Collector, issue 383. And if you want to sing along to all the songs, you can do so, because it does have the lyrics on the flip side. And each of the 2 LPs come pressed on red vinyl, very fittingly so. So overall, very happy to kind of get both facets of the Black Sabbath story live from the 2 most notable lineups with these 2 cool unofficial live releases.
So there you guys go. That is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of June this year in 2025. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.